Is there any discussion? We'll call for the vote on ordinance 2013-20 on second reading.
Jeremy Ashcraft?
Yes.
Bob Bishop?
Yes.
Joe Buck?
Yes.
Gary Fox?
Yes.
Charlie Hastings?
Yes.
Chuck Liddell?
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy?
yes,
Ordinance 2013-20 passes on second reading on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Ordinance 2013-21, Councilperson Popejoy, please.
ordinance 2013-21, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending salary ordinance 2012-32. Mayor Franklin, I call for a vote on ordinance 2013-21.
Second.
Ordinance 2013-21 has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote on ordinance 2013-21.
Chuck Liddell?
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy?
Yes,
Charlie Hastings?
Yes.
Gary Fox?
Yes.
Joe Buck?
Yes.
Bob Bishop?
Yes.
Jeremy Ashcraft?
Yes.
Ordinance 2013-21 passes on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed on second reading. Ordinance 2013-16, Councilman Bishop, please.
Ordinance 2013-16, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending Ordinance 2011-09, declaring weeds to be a nuisance and providing for the removal of said weeds and paying cost of such removal. Your Honor, I call for a vote for ordinance 2013, second reading.
Second.
Ordinance 2013-16 has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 2013-16 based on what we discussed in our committee meeting 2 weeks ago. Those amendments would be as follows. In the second whereas, we would be eliminating the last sentence, or exceeding 6 inches in case of habitually unmaintained property, thus leaving the length at 8 inches.
Mr. Liddell, I'm sorry. You said eliminate the entire sentence or just that part of the sentence?
Or exceeding 6 inches in the case of habitually unmaintained property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
In Article 2, Section B, we would strike Section B completely because it has to do with the 6 inches again. And then, of course, changing C would become B and D would become C. And moving on to Article 8, Section B, we will be reverting the penalties back. First violation would go from 75 back to 50 because that was just changed in 11. And second penalty would go from 125 back to 100, leaving it in the original language. Those would be all of the changes that I would recommend in the amendment.
Chuck, that would be just exactly 3 then?
3 amendments.
1, 2, 3. Well, yes.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to amend. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Amendments have been,
There's actually more than that. I mean, it depends if you're counting B as a penalty. As 1, there's 2 different changes in that. That'd be 2. 3 and 4 total.
Well, we'll amend B1, we'll amend the second whereas, and we'll amend Article 2B.
Okay.
okay, so that I can make sure we have these right. You're going to amend the second whereas after 8 inches. That would be taken out.
That would be struck.
Under Article 2, Section B would be stricken.
Right.
C becomes B and D becomes C.
Right.
And then last, under Article 8, under Section B, the penalty section, it will read now in Section 1 is amended to say, to read a civil penalty of $50 for the first violation and a civil penalty of $100 for the third and subsequent violations during the calendar year. Correct?
Well, with the second violation during any calendar year, carrying a civil penalty of $100 instead of $125.
Okay, correct.
Mhm.
Yes.
250 is the same as it was?
Right. Chris Armstrong has the amended, she has them amended and
Okay.
ready to go.
Yeah, and I think we have it, Chuck. We're just trying to be clear exactly where we're at. And that was all the amendments.
Yes.
Okay, so I have an amendment and a second. Are there any further amendments from council? Okay, I have a hand coming up in the audience that would like to offer comment. Please state your name.
Mercedes Brew, 1315 East Market Street. I was just wondering if there are any accommodations for decorative grasses or prairie grasses like are used in the parks in this? You talked about it at the last council meeting, that there were some prairie grasses in the parks.
On Article 1, definition, weeds and rank vegetation does not include prairie land or agricultural crops such as hay and pasture. On the page first, on page 1.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. We have an amendment, and it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion or any other comments? All right, we will vote on the amendment first. Then it will be all three amendments rolled into one amendment, one vote. Call for the question on the amendment.
Jeremy Ashcraft,
Yes.
Bob Bishop,
Yes.
Joe Buck,
Yes.
Gary Fox,
Yes.
Charlie Hasty.
Yes.
Chuck Liddell,
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy,
Yes.
The amendment passes on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Now, ordinance 2013-16 in its entirety.
Mayor Franklin, I do want to point out prior to having the final vote, in Article 3, Section B, one of the concerns is that we were being exceedingly tough on the landowners, property owners in regards to the enforcement of this. And it says that, they receive a notice and they have 7 days to fix it. And if I just read this, and in reading this I thought, well, okay, if the violation is corrected by the owner or other responsible party within 7 days, no further action will be taken and no penalty is imposed. And so I think that's a pretty fair offering. If there's something that's pointed out by the code enforcement officer, 7 days after they're notified, they have a week to get it changed, and then they have no fiscal responsibility just to get it done. So I think it's important that the public understands that.
I thank you for pointing that out, and I would also go on to say that Board of Works activities or actions that have been taken, anytime somebody shows effort, we have worked with them. We're not aggressive as long as we're seeing progress and acknowledgement that there is a problem and that the landowner or at least the occupant is taking some kind of corrective action. Okay. Mr. Berkshire, would you like to come forward? Please state your name and address.
Michael Berkshire, 528 Bates Street, Logansport, Indiana. Just a couple quick questions. One, I noticed in here under Article 3, just to make this clear, that the code enforcement officer does have the authority to approach the Cass County Superior Court and get a basically a search warrant to enter your property to search.
Where are you at, Mike?
Article
3.
3, notice of violation.
Section A, B.
I believe that's what I'm interested in.
Notice of owner here on B.
Wait a minute. One of these.
Oh, there it is. Well, that's the Article 3 is notice of violation. Then you have A, B, and
The only place I see any reference to a court is in Section A.
One of these I know I definitely did just read, where the code enforcement officer can obtain a search warrant and enter the premises.
If there's a search warrant, it would be issued by a judge.
It would be Article 2, Section D, I believe. For complaint from a court or law, enter into any occupied property and make an inspection if the owner or person in control of the property does not voluntarily give permission to enter the property or make an inspection through an administrative section, Article 2, Section D. I just want clarified, that is in there, that the code enforcement officer can approach the court and get a search warrant
Yeah, that's
to
C.
enter your property.
Article 2C now,
No.
what we have amended.
Oh,
Yeah,
you've
we haven't
that?
amended it officially yet.
Okay,
But
I've got the old copy. I just want to make sure that that's what it reads.
Right, he has to go, number one, it has to be for something you can't see from the street.
Okay.
It has to have a complaint registered, and in order to investigate the complaint, the enforcement officer would have to go to a judge and ask for an administrative search warrant.
Okay, but
And
he
then the
can't,
judge
he,
would have to decide if there's enough evidence to grant that or no.
okay, that's just what
And
I
that's if
wanted.
it's not visible from the street.
Okay.
If it's visible from the street or the sidewalk or public property, visible from anywhere outside the property that's being inspected.
Including Google. Google Earth looking down. That's one question. The other question I have is, does this article apply to city and municipal properties? That they have to be mowed and maintained just as this article so says?
Yes.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also point out that the warrant has to be limited to the basis of the complaint.
Okay.
Meaning if someone complains about weeds, the code enforcement officer cannot get an administrative search warrant to toss your bedroom.
Okay.
That has absolutely no basis to the complaint. It would be to go on the property to look and see if there are weeds there.
Okay.
And this ordinance limits it to that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Ordinance 2013-16 has been moved and properly seconded. It's been amended. Is there any further discussion? Call for a vote on ordinance 2013-16.
Jeremy Ashcraft?
Yes.
Bob Bishop?
Yes.
Joe Buck?
Yes.
Gary Fox?
Yes.
Charlie Hastings?
Yes.
Chuck Liddell?
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy?
Yes.
Ordinance 2013-16 passes on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Ordinance 2013-17. Councilman Hastings, please.
Ordinance 2013-17, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana regarding abandoned vehicles. Your Honor, I call for a second vote on ordinance 2013-17.
Second.
Ordinance 2013-17 has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, I'd like to offer an amendment to ordinance 2013-17. Again, as discussed in the committee, this amendment would reference section 4A, where it says a vehicle stored as the property of a member of the armed forces of the United States who is on active duty assignment, and we would like to add and/or a college student who is away at school.
That's it?
That's it.
Your Honor, I'm gonna
I'm
ask-
sorry.
Go ahead.
There hasn't been a second.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Jeremy?
Councilman Ashcraft made the second. We're going to consider these amendments one at a time. That's that one amendment. If Councilman Liddell is finished with his amendment?
Yep.
Okay, I'll call for a vote on the amendment offered by Councilman Liddell.
Jeremy Ashcraft?
Yes.
Bob Bishop?
No.
Joe Buck?
Yes.
Gary Fox?
Yes.
Charlie Hastings?
Yes.
Chuck Liddell?
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy?
Yes.
The amendment passes on a vote of 6 in favor and 1 opposed. Councilman Bishop, did you have?
I was gonna ask to table this, so that we can have more time to discuss it, but,
No? You asking it?
yeah.
Second.
Have a
Because there's a lot of things that I would like to amend on this, and I was not able to make that committee meeting. So I would just ask that we table it at this point, try one more time.
Okay. We have a motion to table and a second. Is there any discussion regarding the table?
Can we do that since we've already had a motion and it's been seconded?
Yeah.
Randy?
I think you can, yes.
I think, or you know?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question on the floor. Let's call for a vote on tabling ordinance 2013-17.
Jeremy Ashcraft,
Yes.
Bob Bishop,
Yes.
Joe Buck,
Yes.
Gary Fox,
Yes.
Charlie Hastings,
Yes.
Chuck Liddell,
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy.
Yes.
Ordinance 2013-17 is tabled at this point. Ordinance 2013-18, that would be Councilman Buck, please.
Ordinance 2013-18, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, prohibiting parking of motor vehicles in lawns and green space. Call for a vote.
Second.
Okay, ordinance 2013-18 has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Call for a vote on ordinance 2013-18.
Your Honor, I got something I want to say. The problem I have with this ordinance, really, it comes down to something that I think Mike just brought, or maybe Mercedes brought up, that I think that the city itself has a trouble complying with this ordinance as written. We know that people park in the green space in the parks, so I'm not going to support this at this point for that purpose. Thank you.
And I know that there are plans right now to park on the green space for the 4th of July festivities at Riverside Park. It's really hard to take this as written.
I just feel like, we can't have an ordinance that the city itself cannot comply with. So that's just why I'm not supporting this. Thank you.
Okay.
And I might say I've had some people voice concerns about this ordinance on where they park their cars. They do it for one day, a half a day, to wash their car, that kind of stuff.
And me as well.
And that's not what this ordinance
I know
is
it.
about.
I know it.
And we discussed that at committee. This isn't for when we have a big event at one of the parks. We're not gonna, this is for people who habitually park their car in the front yard. I don't know if Chris wants to come up and address us about that, but we hashed all that out at the last meeting. Did we not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, if you would, please come forward, state your name.
I was just stating why I'm not in support of it.
And it's okay, we can take a vote, but do you have questions for Community
Armstrong.
Development Director Chris Armstrong?
Can you guarantee that it's going to work like you said it was going to work?
I can guarantee as long as I'm in my position.
Okay. All right.
And I have spelled out, this ordinance is not intended to deter someone from temporarily parking in their yard, such as to wash a vehicle, have company over, etc. This is meant for citizens not to be permanently parking in their yards.
I also believe we addressed those individuals that might have motorhomes or campers that sit in the back of their property. They have license plates on them, they have insurance on them, they're maintained, there's no weeds growing up around them or anything, and indicated that there would be no problem with that. It's when something's sitting, it's not running, it doesn't have license plates, it doesn't have insurance, it's not able to move.
That'd be the
That's
abandoned
where-
vehicle, wouldn't it?
That's, well, it can fall under both, actually. It could fall under both. So, I do think that we talked about that extensively in order to be able to, what we were trying to address.
I agree with Bob. I can't support this amendment either, or this ordinance either. I think it's a little too restrictive. If it was just like from the front of the property to the street, I would be more acceptable for it. But the whole yard is a little too restrictive, I think.
I can think of several properties in Logansport where they have absolutely destroyed the curbs and sidewalks from repeatedly driving over them. So it doesn't seem to matter whether they're parking in the front yard, the side yard, or the backyard. If they drove over a curb and a sidewalk to get there, they've created a public safety hazard for their neighbors and anybody who happens to walk down the street.
And not to mention the damage to the sidewalk, which
Exactly.
which the city usually has to fund. Okay, we'll call for the vote on ordinance 2013-18.
Joe Buck,
No.
Gary Fox,
No.
Charlie Hastings.
No.
Chuck Liddell,
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy,
Yes.
Jeremy Ashcraft,
Yes.
Bob Bishop.
No.
Ordinance 2013-18 fails on a vote of 3 in favor and 4 opposed.
Do you want me to stay here for the next one?
Might as well.
We'll call you back if we need to. Thank you. Ordinance 2013-19. Councilman Fox, please.
Ordinance 2013-19, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending ordinance 2008-9, establishing procedures for handling and disposal of garbage, trash, yard waste, and recyclables in the City of Logansport, Indiana. I motion for ordinance 2013-19.
Second.
Ordinance 2013-19 has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the vote on ordinance 2013-19.
Gary Fox,
Yes.
Chuck Liddell,
Yes.
Teresa Popejoy,
Yes.
Charlie Hastings.
Yes.
Joe Buck,
Yes.
Bob Bishop,
Yes.
Jeremy Ashcraft.
Yes.
Ordinance 2013-19 passes on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. There is no new business. Is there any board member comments?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a question. I met with a member of our audience today, Mrs. Heimlich, who lives up in the senior apartments, and she was under the impression that we would be visiting the annexation tonight, which we're not until, I told her, till the 8th. But one of her concerns was regarding the animals, livestock, and hunting. And in referring to the minutes last week, it said that you said that we would be working on those this week, and she wanted to know when we would be having a committee meeting to discuss them. And I asked Councilman Buck, and he said he wasn't, Council President Buck, he said he wasn't sure, so I thought I'd ask you, do we have a committee meeting to discuss that, or is that something that you guys are doing without full council?
Well, we would obviously involve council before we would do anything like that. It would require council action to adopt an ordinance to amend. This is a short week. We have been working on it. City Attorney Head and myself have had numerous discussions on it, and something even came down today, although I can't say that I had a chance to review it today. But I did see some amendments or some ordinances that are pertaining to accommodating the residents in the area to be annexed. There's nothing definite. It's certainly our desire and our hope that we would accommodate the needs of those people, and it deals with several different issues: open burning, hunting, firing a gun, depending on where they're at, and burning of fence rows for agricultural purposes. We had a whole host of issues that arose from those meetings, and we certainly intend to address those, although I don't know that we can get them done before July 8th. There is a statutory deadline, July 8th. The annexation will have to be completed. I believe it's before the end of July, maybe even the middle of July. I'm not sure. But we're trying to accommodate as many people as we can, yet at the same time meeting the statutory deadline for annexation.
So in short, there won't be another opportunity for her to attend and discuss.
She can attend on July 8th. She's certainly welcome to offer comments. We had a public hearing. I believe that date was sometime in June. Again, we're trying to be as accommodating as we can, and we certainly intend to offer those wishes of those people, the desires expressed during the public hearing. If you'll remember, we did provide answers from the public hearing. They're online. Anybody can go online and see them, but we certainly intend to be as accommodating as we can.
Okay, this was
The-
just
the
one.
final- The final decision will rest with city council.
In reading what I was given today, it said it was still being discussed, and she had some thoughts, so I was just looking
Yeah,
for an
and-
opportunity for her to have input. When is the statutory deadline for annexation?
I believe it's July 15th.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other board member comments? All right. Miscellaneous business, including matters not already considered? Yes, please.
Lisa Hanson, 2169, 350 South. I may be able to help clear some of that up, Chuck. And
Okay.
maybe
Up, Chuck.
Mr. Head can also. We have talked, and I don't know if you have talked to Ms. Ruby, our attorney, on writing up some of those ordinances, and have you guys got to talk maybe today? I talked to her earlier this morning. She was going to maybe email you, and that's what we were talking about, is maybe preparing some of those ordinances before the meeting and having them here for July 8th. Has any of that?
I have not spoken to her today.
Okay.
I don't think I received an email before I left my office.
Okay, that's just what I talked to her this morning. I didn't know if you had talked to her, this week or not yet.
This week I haven't, no. I
And
talked
been
to her
able to write some of
Friday.
those up. So that's kind of how we left it, is possibly the two of them getting together and writing some of those ordinances and maybe having them here for July 8th, but nothing was set in stone.
Okay.
For those.
And I think Lisa would also agree that we have heard the concerns.
Yes.
And
we
we
now
have,
just have the list, and we just need to get those ordinances put together and have them written up and then present them to you guys, is
Right.
where we're at now.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, and Lisa,
fair?
they have to go through the committee meeting too
Okay.
before we bring them to the full council, just for your information.
And I think Lindsay was going to be in on those, her and Mr. Head were going to write those up together.
I'm sure they've talked.
So,
Yep.
if that updates anything.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other miscellaneous business, including matters not already considered? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.